everybody. David Frangioni, Modern Drummer CEO, and here we are on another episode of the Modern Drummer Podcast, live from the Modern Drummer Hall of Fame, Frangioni Foundation Drum Museum. And what a great day it is here today, because we've got the one and only Carlin White.
Thank you, David.
Welcome, Carlin.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you. This is fantastic. So we'll start at the beginning, but what brings us here today is you're out with Lana Del Rey.
Correct. In the middle of a tour. Came from, what was last night? Alabama. So, yeah, we have a show tomorrow at West Palm Beach. What's the name of the venue?
I think Amphitheater.
Amphitheater?
Yep. Yep. So we'll be there and watch everybody, because we have a rundown of Carlin's setup. I can't wait for you to see it and check it out. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And Carlin will be playing for us on it, and it's just going to be incredible.
Yep.
So, Carlin, let's start when the drums are part of your life. I know you started and grew up playing gospel.
Yes.
So how does that start? How did the drums become part of your youth?
So my dad, who was a pastor, he is a musician, played bass for Timothy Wright, who was considered the godfather of gospel music. And so music runs in the veins, you know. And growing up, my older brother started on drums, and then he moved over to the bass. I still was kind of just messing around with drums, but I wasn't really playing in the earlier years. I was more into sports, basketball, football, you know. I wanted to go to the NBA.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't grow, so, you know, stuck to the drums. But around like 12, 13 is when I started taking it seriously and started playing for my dad at church.
Did you take any lessons, or did you just jump right on the kit?
No lessons, just jumped on a kit, you know, learned from watching, and my older brother played, so he would show me stuff as well.
Okay. Were you practicing a lot after you kind of got up on the bandstand and you tried to play with the group, right? So you got a shed.
Yeah, so it was me, my older brother Jay White, and Corey Henry plays keys. We grew up at my dad's church, and pretty much any day we weren't in school, we were at the church, like just playing.
Wow.
So I learned a lot, and then fast forward to maybe till 14, high school. I went to Benjamin Banneker High School, and it's not a music school, but there happens to be a music teacher there named Reverend L, and he played jazz. So he kind of introed us into like jazz music as well. So, and I skipped over Dave Weckl, sorry. So I came across Dave Weckl when I was a kid. My uncle gave me a CD of his and a tape. Okay. What was the name of the tape? I told you earlier. Master.
That's Dave's first solo album.
Yeah, so my uncle gave me that tape. I remember the cover, and that was my intro to like the drums in a sense. You know, when I started like loving drums. So
Weckl's a big inspiration.
Yes, that's number one on my list.
Number one, okay.
Yes.
Did you ever check out Contemporary Drummer Plus One?
I have.
Play along.
Wait, I think I have. I did a cover to one of his songs. Convergence, I want to say the name of the song was.
Oh,
was that a different one?
That was a different one.
That was later on.
Another play along. That's the one where he did on that record. Also with Jay Oliver, he did the duet.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
yes.
With Chris Coleman. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
So yeah, I did one of those songs.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess that was later down the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
all really challenging stuff to play.
No, for sure. It took me a couple of days to lock that in. But yeah, I did it. Made it.
So, but that's much later.
Mm-hmm.
So early days, Dave Weckl, you start playing in the gospel band.
Yeah.
And you're playing a lot.
Yeah.
And then when does it hit you at a certain point that this could be your life rather than just something you love and you may do like in addition to something else? When did it start to transition to what turned into your career in life?
Yeah. What was that? Passion. Well, at 13 and like 12, 13, when I started like playing for the church, I like progressed really fast, like months. So then I knew like, okay, I really have something here.
There was a lot of natural ability that just started flowing.
Yeah, for sure. It was like immediate. I'm like, okay, this is my thing. But I still wanted to play basketball. So I was like, you know, if I happen to grow, you know, to 6 feet, didn't happen, then, you know, maybe I'll give basketball a try. But I knew long-term drums was the move.
You know? And it was a passion.
Yeah,
right? As much or more than basketball, it sounds like.
More than basketball, I'll say, for sure. I spent more time doing it.
Right.
You know, so yeah.
And what happens as you go through high school and now you're having to make some decisions in life, right?
Well, like I said, we met the music teacher at the school, which it wasn't a music school, but he was incredible. And
It was a big influence on you.
yes, me and my brothers.
Okay.
And after school, Corey would come by. My older brother was there just for my freshman year, but then he graduated. But he would come like while I was still there. We would have jam sessions, and he would just be showing us tunes, just putting us on, educating us in the jazz, realm. So.
And who were you listening to? What were some of the what style of jazz was it?
Well, I was still, going through like Weckl. What's the name was a thing too back then? Was it drummerworld.com? Or the modern, it was some type of
World, yeah.
drummerworld.com, right? It was a website.
Yeah.
So I used to go through all of the legends over there. So I used to always watch Buddy Rich stuff, Ed Shaughnessy.
It's incredible when you start discovering.
Yeah,
Right?
I was.
Such
It was
a different play, but
it
it's
was
so virtuosic.
Yeah, so I would like watch those videos and then go practice that forever. And then we listened to Corey was into like Oscar Peterson
Okay.
and Art Tatum, so I would listen to that stuff all the time as well. And Robert Sput Seawright, huge influence on me as well. So I used to watch whatever he was doing. He's one of my favorites because he's very versatile.
Sure.
So he would, I would watch him for, gospel approach, for, fusion approach,
And then go to the kit and
yeah, and then whatever I hear, try to play it back
awesome.
until I understood it, and then create my own thing from that. So.
And so what happens as high school starts to transition and you got to start making decisions?
So I have a older brother plays bass, not blood. Jay White's my brother. Dwayne Wright, he was working in the mainstream world, so he was one of the guys that were closest to me that were already like successful, playing for like A-list artists.
Tour.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Having a career.
right. So pretty much I was inspired by him to like kind of get into like studying those styles of music, different styles of music. And when I got old enough, he started like bringing me to more, events, had me playing at local clubs in the city. Okay. And there I met a few, people that were also in the industry.
Because we're in the New York area.
Right.
Right. And now you're starting to network.
Mm-hmm.
And it's starting to, sounds like it's starting to happen.
Yeah. So everybody's like, oh man, like this guy, he's next. This kid is next. He's next, So I just, stayed focused and eventually got the calls,
And what was the first big gig?
The first call I got was Dwayne. He called me for Marsha Ambrosius. So that was, we did a tour in 2011. So I was 21. That was my first like touring experience ever.
Okay.
And then
Learned a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And then maybe about a year after that, Rasheed Williams, who's also a Mapex artist, he called me for J. Cole. And then within that same time, I filled in for him for John Legend.
Okay.
So at that time, I was like, he can't do both of these gigs. So he's going to have to pass one. And sure enough, he gave me
John Legend.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Yeah. Especially at the time, it was like John Legend was the man.
Sure.
J. Cole was like, climbing the ladder.
Right. But J. Cole's been a steady gig for you.
Yes.
It's been a great gig.
As soon as I got it, maybe like 2 months, 3 months, he took off and was at the top of the game, So
Yeah.
worked out perfectly.
And what have you learned in playing with J. Cole for, at this point, right, at least 10 years, right?
Yes, about 12 years now.
12 years.
Yeah. I learned, well, I'll say a lot of musicians that come from our world, we kind of, downplay, the hip hop, the musical ability, like the musical knowledge of hip hop music, and I've learned it taught me to appreciate, different styles of music, because coming from gospel and, jazz and fusion is like, it's
complex.
Yes,
complex.
Exactly. So it's like we kind of, overlook, hip hop. So especially from a drummer standpoint. So now playing hip hop or playing it this long, there's so many like intricacies within
the nuance.
patterns.
It's not so easy to play, is it?
It's insane. It's insane, especially now with trap music now influencing a lot of music with all the 16th and 32nd notes. Yeah. So like, especially those who want to lock in the patterns. Like I'm a stickler for that, so I try to lock in the patterns identical. It's a headache. But I've learned to appreciate other styles of music.
And when you get it and you lock it in, you realize that as much as some of the chop stuff is difficult to play.
Mhm.
The stuff to lock in isn't a lot easier to play.
I mean, for sure. You know, it takes discipline for it all. You know, whether it's, you know, learning how to play a chop or learning how to play a record or the right way to approach a record.
Right.
You know, so it's like, you know, this Lana Del Rey gig is a perfect example. It's like, skill set wise, is it difficult? No, it's actually fairly easy. You know, but the tough part is that a lot of people can't grasp is the right approach. You know, understanding the style of music. You know, that takes just as much detail as it do learning. You know,
The really fancy stuff,
Exactly.
if you will. Hi, it's David Frangioni, CEO of Modern Drummer. Thank you for leading our drumming community and being such a significant and important part of everything we do here at Modern Drummer. We're so excited. Please hit the subscribe button to Modern Drummer's YouTube channel. It's just hit it below. Be part of everything we're doing every day, every week, every month. Also, check out our shop. It's so exciting for drummers to check out. We got back issues, got some incredible drummers. We've got shirts, we've got hats, we've got notebooks, we've got education. It's all there. If you love drums and drumming like I do, and I'm sure you do, and all of us at Modern Drummer are so passionate about, you got to check out the shop at moderndrummer.com. And please, again, hit the link and subscribe to the Modern Drummer YouTube channel. I'll see you again soon.
So yeah,
it's awesome. And so when you're learning the Lana Del Rey, set list, and you're shedding it and you're getting ready, you're staying true to what the audience is expecting to hear,
Exactly.
right? Because that's one of the things I've always found with drummers in the A-list gigs, and drummers who want to be in the A-list gigs but might not get there yet, is they don't realize, the drummers that haven't gotten there yet, that you got to put the drum side of things aside from a chop standpoint and make the drum side of things the music side of things.
Indeed.
And then when that happens, now you're playing for A-list artists as a drummer, because that's what the music needs.
Exactly.
So you have all the chops that you need, and you've played, all different styles, and shedded Weckl and Dennis Chambers and guys that have chops for days. But you're playing
Aaron Spears as well.
Pardon?
Aaron Spears as well.
Yeah, Aaron Spears. Oh, yeah, man, just incredible.
Hero of mine.
Oh yeah, he's a hero of mine too. He's an amazing guy, great friend, and as Dennis and Dave are too. But all legends really at this point.
Indeed.
And what those guys do though, when same approach that you're referring to, when they're playing gigs that require a certain approach, because that's what the music that's been made needs for playback.
Indeed.
That's what is done, and that's just kind of expand on that a little bit, like your approach to not make it about your drumming or your little thing, as opposed to what the artist needs from you. It's always going to be your own because you're playing it.
Yeah.
But they're expecting, that their music is there.
Well, it's really just trial and error. So like just growing up with my brothers, Corey, Henry, and Jay, like they're a few years older than me, so they were more advanced when we were younger, for sure. So they would teach me a lot of things that I, or show me a lot of things that I didn't understand. But I would just do it because they said to do it, And then over time, it was like, oh, I get it, yeah. And then
it wasn't all just chops.
It was just, feels and how to play a certain song or the right approach to it. So like when I would hear a song that, had a similar approach to something I learned previously with them, I'd be like, oh, I know what to do right here. This reminds me of this time.
Awesome.
And then I would go to that. So even with my dad, like he's a musician and artist as well. So if I would try to do something, like, no, pocket, like, stay here. Right. So it was like, I want to play this, but I just did it. And then over time, it was like, okay, I get why. And then when I see other younger drummers at that time play, and they would like show all of their tricks, it'd be like, oh yeah, it lost the feel, it lacked. I would understand why they would want me to stay in a certain realm. So fast forward to, working with A-list artists, I've been in situations where they're like, yeah, this doesn't sound like the record. You would hear something like that. Like, this doesn't sound like the song. Like, we're getting away from the essence of the song. So like hearing that, it's like, okay, so maybe I need to tune my drums differently, or maybe I need different sizes. Like the drums I play with J. Cole is totally different from the kid I'm playing with Lana. Okay. So it's like understanding.
So every detail
matters.
How do I get the sound?
Exactly. It matters. Like it's almost having like a producer hat on. Like when you go into a studio, it's like, okay, I can't playing live is not identical. It's not the same as playing in the studios. It's a totally different approach.
Right.
You know, so understanding that difference is like, okay, I need different drums. This snare sounds like this, or this tom. I use a 10-inch snare and a 13 as my main with J. Cole. It's not going to work with Lana Del Rey. So I need bigger drums. My rap tom was a 12, 16, 18, you know.
Right.
So I have bigger cymbals.
Right.
You know, so it's like just understanding that is, and, you know, dealing with, you know, artists and our brothers being like, no, that's not it. You know, help get me to the place of like, okay, what does the music need? What is it?
You know what strikes me is how learned you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for the confidence that you have and the conviction you have behind a drum kit, what gets you there, from what I'm learning today, getting to know you, is this openness to like, okay, what do I need to do? How can I be of service, if you will?
Right.
Which I think is the hallmark of every great musician I've had the pleasure of working with and knowing, is they all are focused on what is needed here.
Right.
And anything they want to do is not relevant compared to what they need to do for the artists with whom they're collaborating.
Exactly.
And that's what I get from you. I get a real sense of like, you know, like I'm going to get in the zone and nail it.
Right.
And that makes me a great drummer, as opposed to having to do, you know, triplet fills and that kind of stuff.
And the thing is, for me, is like, there's a place for that stuff too. You know, like I have some drum peers, you know, that are like, oh, I want to do what you're doing. But I'm like, but you're great at this, you know, all of the tricks and stuff. Like, do that. You know, to me, it's like, if you want to do that, you know, you can do your own thing, you know, which is, I think, is great as well. And it's a little bit more reliable, honestly, you know, because it's your thing and you can take it as far as you want to take it, you know. But yeah, if you want to work for people, you have to see through their lens, you know. And
right. That's what it comes down to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that if there's a solo artist or an artist that leads their own band, as you're describing, with the tricks and those kinds of things, which is awesome. And as drummers, we love hearing and seeing that. And then there's the artist that we'll call the sideman.
Right.
That is like hired gun to come in and nail it.
Yep.
And in that role, basically, you're probably comfortable in either role. It's just you've done more of the hired gun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm comfortable in either role, but I think until I get to a place of, well, I'm comfortable in my own, or confident in my own music, we probably won't see that side until then. So as of now, you know.
Well, you love playing with J. Cole. You love playing with Lana.
Yeah, where the money is too. But I like playing different styles of music as well. So, you know. Yeah,
and so
I appreciate that. My career has given me that.
Growing up with your dad as a pastor and a musician, how important has faith been in your journey?
The first time I played the PHX was roughly around 2008, and it was at the Montreal Drum Festival with Paul Brochu, Mark Kelso. Having a chance to actually play those drums after seeing them for the first time, easy to tune, big sound, really punchy, direct sound, focused sound, and yeah, I just wanted to play really fast.
Oh man, I think any musician, especially if you do it full time, faith is required, you know, because it's unpredictable. You know, we just had a pandemic a couple years ago. Everything was shut down. Nothing, all things music stopped. In terms of like, you know, our ability to perform for people, you know, creatively, you know, we were still able to learn and grow. But yeah, I feel like just music requires faith, you know, because there are more musicians than there are gigs and opportunities, you know.
And there's a lot of ups and downs.
Exactly. A lot of ups and downs, a lot of dead spots, a lot of great moments where stuff is moving. And then it's like, oh, yeah, I've been home for about 3 months. Nothing's happening. You know? So it's just, it requires you believing in yourself and knowing that, hey, I'm going to be fine. This is what I want to do. And I know I'm going to succeed. And I'm going to find that stride to where it's consistent for me, you know? So, yeah, I believe it requires a lot of faith. you know.
And you have a lot of faith.
Yeah.
And when things are tough, you tap into that, right?
I'm not worried.
Good.
Yeah, for me, it's like, there's no worry because I have faith, you know.
Nice.
I don't worry, like, even when stuff is lacking.
Oh, okay.
In the pandemic, I wasn't worried. I was like, oh, I found something else to do. Okay, music production, computer. I want to learn guitar. Get a guitar. Start learning that. It's like,
So it's a bedrock,
yeah,
really. It gives you that foundation to be able to just get through whatever the world is throwing at you.
Mhm.
It's not blowing your sail left, right, up,
Never.
down, like someone without faith might be, kind of
Yeah.
vulnerable to.
yeah. Like I view those moments as blessings because, you know, once things really take off to where it needs to, I'm not going to have those days ever again. You know, so it's like when I was younger, I used to practice all the time. I don't have time to practice anymore. So I had to, you know, maximize that time. So we have down points. There's not much work happening. I'm home on a drum board, practicing guitar, or maybe doing production. I'm learning something, you know, because once that, you know, section of my life take off, I'm out of here. You know,
You won't be able to do
those
that.
days will never return again. You know,
Right.
so I appreciate, you know, the down times because how I view myself is like so successful that I won't even have the time to do any of these things again. You know, so
And that's what's happened,
yeah,
right? I mean,
Yeah.
faith manifests.
for sure. Like I'm here,
Vision.
modern drummer.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't.
Absolutely.
I didn't see this happening. You know.
And, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is you've had this really great career at a very young age,
Mhm.
and it's been very consistent, and you've been on a trajectory that has always moved forward, regardless of any other circumstances, pandemic, pre-pandemic, whatever
Yes.
the world's kind of in at that moment. You have gone from playing in the gospel band to, you know, starting to tour, then getting with J. Cole, then that takes off,
Yes.
then, you know, J. Cole's on hiatus, you're with Lana Del Rey. I mean, these are all really, really awesome musical gigs,
Indeed.
right? And I don't think there's a coincidence between playing those gigs and having the mindset to just what I'll call stay the course,
Mhm.
right? Because as you said, there's all of these musicians out there. There aren't as many gigs as there are musicians. It's certainly not at the top.
Yep.
And there may be a whole group of people that can play the gigs that are available.
Mhm.
And what's the distinction between the one that gets it and the one that doesn't, or the ones that don't get it?
Mhm.
And I think part of it is attitude.
Yes.
And part of it is personality and being at a solid place in your life when the gig comes along. Because I
Right.
think people sense, especially the A-list people, they sense when someone is quote unquote solid
Yes.
and it's together.
Yep.
And I think faith is a key ingredient in keeping us,
Sure.
if not forming us in the first place, but certainly keeping us solid.
Indeed. It's true. Agreed. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah,
Well,
that's my philosophy as well. And I don't preach, you know,
Yeah.
I'll say, you know, you should do this or he should do that or this, but I do share what works.
Yes.
And what works, what you're sharing that works, happens to be exactly what I found that works.
Yeah.
Which is that commitment to faith, that confidence in the fact that we believe that things, if we do good things will come to us as
Indeed.
well. And, you know, putting the work in, right? Because it's a lot of hard work as well.
Yes.
I mean, faith is an important ingredient, I think, from head space.
Yeah.
Doing the work is a huge ingredient in being able to stay on the bandstand,
Yes.
right? And so have you found that you've had to be very, very consistent in doing the work and how hard a work it really is?
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's necessary for any field. You know, you have to do the work, you know, to qualify for whatever the position is. So,
It's
Yeah.
easier said than done.
I mean,
Everybody says hard work, but when you go to do it, most people go, "Oh,
It is
wait a
definitely-
second! I
it
want to
is-
go to the movies tonight. I don't want to miss this, or I don't want to get up early."
Yeah.
Like, hard work is hard work, man.
it is definitely easier said than done, but it's like, you know, it's about where you see yourself, you know, and how bad you want it. You know, a lot of people see themselves as successful, but you know, not everybody want to do the work, you know. So even though there's more musicians than gigs, you know, there's not a lot of musicians that are consistent and put it in hard work, you know, or they don't have a balance, you know. It's like they put hard work over here. But then, like how you said, you can be good enough for the gig, but like, how are you as a person? Like, are you a good person? Are you fun to be around? What is your network, skills like? So it's like all of that matters. You have to have that balance. I can't just be in the house practicing all day, and then I never go out and network and meet people.
Right.
Rashid Williams, how I got cool with him was when I first got my car at 18 in Philly, they used to do a Thanksgiving shed every year. And one year, I think probably that year, 2008, I drove to Philly and I met all of the Philly guys and they met me at the jam session. So it's like, if I've never taken that drive, I probably wouldn't have played for John Legend or, be J. Cole's drummer. I took that chance.
That's huge.
So
that
it's
was
like
literally a turning point.
Yeah, right. So it's like I've done the work. Now it's like, okay, how can I get people to see the work? How can I, and show people that I'm ready?
You weren't scared when you went to that gym session?
No, I would say I wasn't, because I was confident in the work that I put in.
So you felt really good that when I get on the kit, I'm there.
Right. If I'm scared, that means I didn't prepare.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So when you're prepared, you're confident, you're focused.
Shows, whatever it is.
Right.
Like, I'm prepared. I don't get nervous. I don't think I get nervous.
But you were ready. And how did you know what you were going to be playing at the jam session?
Well, I didn't know I was going to play. So how this played out. So there's two drummers that's in Philly, like they're legends. You have Eric Green and George McCurdy. And Darryl Robson, sorry, can't forget Darryl. So I think at the time, Eric and Darryl were playing for Pharrell, a nerd, NERD.
Okay.
So they were like running the game, like they were, and Spanky as well, George McCurdy. And I met George McCurdy, Spanky, I'm going last name, Spanky, maybe a month or so before that. So they were doing like a 3-drummer thing, and they were like trading off. And if you were it was like a fun competition. Like if you missed the one or you messed up, like you had to get up, and another drummer got on.
Gotcha.
So
and Rashid's there.
Right, Rashid is there.
Okay.
So 3 kids is going back and forth, and then I guess once I guess a lot of drummers rotated in and out, they shut one kit down, so it was just 2. So I didn't know the 3rd kit was shut down. So my boy was like, "Yo, go play." So I was like, all right, cool. I go to the drums. And Eric Green didn't know me. He was like, "Hey, this kid shut down." So I was like, oh, "Okay." So I'm turning around. Spanky runs up. He's like, "No, let him play. Because he just met me and we played drums like a month ago. So as soon as I sat on, the first time it came around me, everybody was like, "Oh my God, like what is this?" And mind you, like I said, like a lot of drummers from our world, they weren't like really studying like the fusion guys. So I was studying Buddy Rich and Dave Weckl like heavy. Okay. So a lot of stuff I was playing had like all the flams and finesse in it. Sure. So they were like, "What is this?" Type thing. So pretty much at the end of that shed, they were like, "Who are you? Where are you from?" Or whatever. That's how I met Rashid and pretty much all the guys in Philly.
So that was kind of life-changing.
Yeah, that was major for me. Wow. That's how I got into the scene. Well, between them and Dwayne Wright, who gave me my first shot with Marsha Ambrosius. But yeah, that's how I pretty much wedged my way into the scene.
And when you look at that night, to get to that point, so much work went into it. Like you said, you're shedding Buddy and Weckl and all of this playing. So it's one moment that changes it all, but there's a lot of steps to get to be ready for that moment, Indeed. Including, without understating it, the fact that you drove there and put yourself into a very, I would say uncomfortable situation. Yeah. I mean, how comfortable can you be in a brand new environment with 3 kits?
And nobody knows me there. And being able to execute, because that's another thing. Like, even with live shows too, like a lot of musicians have that problem. I see them at jam sessions and they can do whatever. But then it's like once the lights hit, the big stage is like, they kind of freeze up. They're like, they're a different musician at that point, So it's like, you see it in sports all the time. It's like, okay, we see NBA players, for example. If we see them at a 24-hour fitness, they are incredible. The last player on the bench will go crazy at a 24-hour fitness, but in the NBA, they look like they can't play, because it's like once the lights hit, it's like, oh, peaks are shrink,
Yeah, they do. So what's your approach to not letting that happen?
Well, I think it's just, like I said, it's an experience thing. So growing up in church and with my brothers, is like we always played concerts and,
so it's very familiar.
Yeah.
Like you already had enough experience. So when you got to that jam session, being on the stage, having the lights, having a new kit, all of these things were kind of just thrown at you just like they would anybody.
Yeah.
It didn't rally you.
Yeah, because I had experience. So it was like whatever it was when I was 12 or 13, that version of what a big stage was, that's what I felt like, in that moment. Even though it was like maybe 100 people there, that was my 20,000 seated venue, and then as I start to experience more, it's like, we're playing at clubs now. And that was like the big stage. So we're like, oh, we're playing at clubs now, so it was like every time I graduated, it still was kind of familiar because, at the time of when I done it, it felt like it was a massive thing at that time too. So yeah, I feel like I was, well prepared for it. And I am prepared for, whatever moments that drummer wise, I'm still working on my other things, production and all that. But yeah.
Right. And it sounds like you love the other aspects of music production and related. Now that that's starting to come into your world, it's not only drumming.
Made me a better drummer too.
So, doing production and getting on that side of the glass.
For sure. Gives me a whole different, angle of music. So it's like a lot of like with learning guitar, I'm like, okay, I'm going back to stuff that I used to listen to when I was younger. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking at it from a whole different, it's the same piece of music, but now there's a different type of appreciation for it because I'm looking at it from a guitar perspective now, or even productions, like looking at it from a production perspective now, so yeah.
Fantastic. Wow. Awesome. Well, we can't wait to see you perform tomorrow, Atlanta. Carlin, thank you for being here today at Modern Drummer Hall of Fame.
Pleasure to be
It's just so great to get to know you.
Yes, sir.
Hear your story. It's inspiring. There's so much to learn from your journey.
Yes.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. Carlin White, David Frangioni, Modern Drummer Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Indeed.